Big news today as CF Montreal will be starting the season without Thierry Henry. Today, officially stepping down as head coach of CF Montreal. Here's a part of his statement that he put out on his Twitter handle. The last year has been an extremely difficult one for me personally. Due to the worldwide pandemic, I was unable to see my children. The separation is too big of a strain for me and my kids. His family lives in the UK, so he went on to say, it is with much sadness that I must take the decision to return to London and leave CF Montreal. Guys, we have heard rumblings. Obviously, the three Canadian teams will in fact have to relocate again because of travel restrictions due to the pandemic. A lot of guys not happy about that. I think we can understand that. But Ollie, is there a concern with Thierry Henry basically admitting the pandemic is a huge reason why he's doing this, that we might see a trickle-down effect and that players or staff members of the other Canadian teams might do the same?
Yeah, I think it's a major concern. I think it's a concern not only, because of that possible worst-case scenario of players just not wanting to play at all, but also the other scenarios of players who do want to participate and how much of a challenge that's going to be to performance, how much of a distraction that's going to be for three Canadian teams that I think all go into this MLS season needing some short-term success. They need to come out of the blocks well. You have Vancouver, where Marc Dos Santos is in his third season, hasn't had much success so far. If this year starts badly for them, there's going to be questions asked about him. Toronto FC have a new coach in Chris Armas, who needs to win the supporters over, I think, in the early part of the season. And then Montreal, obviously a team that has a fan base, or a part of the fan base right now, that is not happy at all with the off-field direction of the team. And when that's the case, you really, really need some on-field success to kind of placate that. So I think this is going to be a massive test of what Olivier Renard has been building in Montreal. The key thing I think he said in their press conference today was that they're going to go after a coach that fits their philosophy and not the other way around. And this is going to really, really test how robust a project he's built, how much it's possible for a new coach to come in, take the group of players that he's assembled and immediately put a good product on the field. So I think for all three Canadian teams, but particularly for Montreal, there's pressure on them going into this season, and that does mean that this is a concerning situation.
I know we'll get more into Montreal in a moment, Andy, but to answer your question, I don't think this will have a trickle-down effect on, the Montreal Impact or Toronto FC or the Vancouver Whitecaps. I mean, we've all made sacrifices over the course of this pandemic, and we still do. When was the last time you saw your parents? When was the last time that people saw their children on a regular basis, especially if they're grown up or you're working away from home or you're a frontline worker? Michael Bradley said it. Like last week, he said, no more excuses. We're getting on with it. We're playing. I'm done with making excuses. There were over 150 applicants for the Toronto FC head coaching job. If you want to be in a fraternity where there's very few jobs, you know what you're signing up for right now, and it's dealing with the unknown, and it's dealing with frustration. Like, look, I'm sympathetic to the guy. He misses his family. I'm not sure how living in Montreal would have brought him closer to his family living in the UK. I don't understand that. It's his decision to make. If this is why he wanted to leave, then that's for each and every individual to choose. But I just don't think that this is going to be a case that we're going to see across the Canadian teams. Not everyone is afforded the luxury of having the lifestyle that Thierry Henry has had over the last 2 decades, right? So I think that this is an isolated circumstance, and I wish him the best in making that decision.
Let's turn our attention now then to CF Montreal. Bitter pill for them to swallow, but it just seems like something else going on where, we know that the rebrand did not go over very well with the supporters. We know already the rumors that were out there initially with Thierry Henry leaving for another coaching position. Now he officially hands in his letter of resignation with a year left on his deal. How are you feeling if you're CF Montreal, Gareth?
I'm angry if I'm a Montreal fan. I'll tell you that much. And it has less to do with Henry and more so about the overall state of affairs. Like, look, if you could spin back the clock to a year ago, if I'm Montreal, I still hire Thierry Henry. It's worth the risk. They've now gone through 7 coaches since 2011. If they were looking for stability, then he was never going to be the long-term solution. That's a falsehood. But if I'm a Montreal supporter, I'm frustrated about the rebrand for the branch of the fan base that's frustrated about that. I'm angry the fact that the DP spots haven't been filled up. Nacho Piatti leaves. Ty Dare leaves. I don't think that they've been adequately replaced. The team struggled to get into the playoffs with a squad, for me, that was nowhere near good enough. So if I'm an Impact or CF Montreal supporter, I'm asking some serious questions about where this project is heading. Patience is one thing, but you're asking far too much if the same mistakes are going to be made over and over and over again.
And there's not a lot of time. So here's the next obvious question. I mean, who replaces Thierry Henry? Players are supposed to start reporting March 1st. Camp opens, on March 8th. And then the season, as we know, is April 17th. Ollie, are there any potential candidates?
Well, the name that's been out there is Gabriel Batistuta, but you had Olivier Renard come out today and say that there hasn't been any talks with him or his agent. So whether that's him just trying to maybe keep things under wraps or whether there is nothing there, we'll have to wait and see. One name that I'll throw out there, and whether it's one for now or for the future, we'll see. Obviously, for obvious reasons, he hasn't coached many games over the past year. But if you were to ask me which CPL coach was most likely to go to one of these Canadian MLS clubs, I'd say Tommy Wheeldon Jr. to Montreal. There's been discussions I've heard between the ownership groups when Remy Gard left about Tommy Wheeldon Jr. There was a level of interest in him and an admiration for what they did in the Canadian Championship that year. And I think that's a relationship that's kind of continued. You've seen Joe Waterman go to Montreal. Karifa Yao's come on loan to Cavalry this season. There is a bit of a link there that's developed and emerged. And so if you were to look for a CPL candidate or look internally in Canada anywhere for a candidate, that would be a name that maybe is one to keep an eye on. If not now, then maybe in the future.
Wheels up.
We'll wait and see.
Listen, Andy, just really quickly, I would be shocked if they don't have someone in mind or someone lined up. Henry leaving, I just don't believe it just came out of the blue. You don't sign an assistant coach in Laurent Simon the day before that you see your manager leave. There has to be some sort of plan here. I just don't think that the club was taken by surprise.
Well, we'll wait and see who that will be. But what we do know is that 2 of the 3 Canadian teams will have a new face as their head coach, Chris Armas with TFC, whoever that will be for CF Montreal.